Want to trick your guests? Try this healthy alternative to a burger. Hey, welcome again to At the Table. Today we're going to be focusing on eating more fruits and vegetables to help us transition to going med. And going med is really focusing on getting us to eating more of the Mediterranean diet, and that is the Mediterranean style eating pattern. So we're going to move towards going med. We are on session 4 for that. So today we are making 2 different recipes that are really great for increasing your fruits and vegetables. The first one is going to be the mango, black bean, and quinoa salad. And then the second one is going to be mushroom and almond burgers, which are one of my absolute favorites. So we're going to start off first with this mango, black bean, and quinoa salad. Now I have went ahead and cooked our quinoa. If you're not sure what that is, I did bring the bag out here. Some people might say quinoa. It's kind of spelled funny, but quinoa is technically a whole grain, and it is one of the only plant-based foods that actually have all essential amino acids, meaning it makes it a complete protein. So a lot of times we get our complete proteins from animal protein. This is a plant-based protein that we can still get our complete protein from. So yes, it is a grain, but it does have a good amount of protein in it as well. So that is a really tasty choice that we are going to use. It's got more of a nutty flavor. And you can see if you look at the grain, when it is actually completely cooked, it will have kind of a circle around the grain to show you that it is completely cooked all the way through. So that doesn't take too long. It's about 15 minutes to cook that. And we only have about half a cup of quinoa here. So half a cup of cooked quinoa first. And then we do have a can of black beans. Now, I could not find the no salt added black beans at the grocery store. All I could find was the regular. So a tip for that is to go ahead and rinse those black beans. You can remove about 30 to 40% of that sodium, which we have done already. So you're just going to throw that in there. And then next we have our mango. This is where our fruit comes in. So mango is one of my favorite fruits. It's more of an exotic fruit, and it's kind of a cross between a pineapple and an orange. It's got its own specific flavor that's just really good and tasty. So you can use 1 to 2 mangoes here, and I've already chopped up 1. So we're going to add in our second one. Now, if you're not familiar with mango, I'll show you how to cut this. So first thing is we want to remove the peeling, and I've already rinsed my mango. So we just need to rinse it with water, nothing else, and I just used a little bit of a scrubbing motion with my thumbs to help fully clean off that mango. So next we're actually going to peel it. So I've seen a lot of different tricks where you could actually do this kind of using a cup or something like that. I just like to use a knife and just go around carefully. And you just want to use like a small paring knife. When it's really ripe, you'll see that it starts to get some red around it. It's like green, yellow, and red. And when you're looking for it in the grocery store, you should be able to lightly push and feel a little bit of your finger kind of goes in. It's similar to if you're shopping for avocados. You don't want it to be super firm. You want it to have a little bit of give to it when you do press it. So the other option, if you have a really ripe mango, you should be able to just peel that off. Sometimes this can be a little bit more time consuming depending on your mango and how ripe it is. This one's pretty ripe, so it's coming right off, which makes it nice and easy for me to peel that. Now, be careful when you are using mango. It's very, very slippery, very slimy, and there's a big seed in the middle. So what we want to do is take our chef's knife, be very careful, and I just lightly start to cut around it. So you want to start with cutting off an edge so that you have a a clean edge that makes it sturdy on the cutting board. And then just work your way around the mango. You might hit the seed that's in the center. That's okay, just keep working your way around. And then we can turn it when we get another edge and just start to chop that off. And now your seed is like an oblong seed. When we get this all done, I will show you what the seed looks like. You can change your knife and work with a smaller knife if it's better for you. But we're just gonna work our way around the seed. Again, being very careful because this is extremely slippery. I'm trying to get to that seed really well. But you can kind of see here, this is the seed, and it's really tough white seed in the center, and it's flat and more of an oblong shape. So that is always in the center of your mango. You want to cut around that. And then we're just going to chop this mango up and add it to our quinoa salad. So we'll be back with that.
You're out for an evening on the town. Finally a chance to relax and forget that you left your front door completely unlocked. Fortunately, you just installed a security system from Star Communications. With just your cell phone, you can check on your house, lock it down, light it up, and get back to relaxing.
You forgot to put Buster in his crate.
Unfortunately, we can't help with that. Security and automation from Star Communications. Call today to find out more.
All right, so we're back finishing up our mango. So we've got it already chopped a little bit. We're gonna chop it further. And just using that light rocking motion with the tip of the knife on the board and watching those fingers working your way down. And you can shift. And so you just want this to be chopped mango. It doesn't have to be really finely chopped. It is up to you size-wise. I just want some decent sized pieces that are easy to eat. You don't want too big so that it's hard to eat. So we'll go ahead and throw that in and move on to the other ingredients. Now with mango, mango is one of our fruits, and we think about how many fruits we want in a day. We want about 2 cups of fruit every single day, or 2 servings. So you could also think about that as 2 pieces of fruit. So if you have a banana, count that as 1 serving. If you have an apple, that's your 2nd serving, and you've met your 2 servings a day that we should be having. So next we'll move on to our onion, and we want to make these into onion slices. Now if you want to, you could absolutely chop this up more finely so that it's a little bit easier to eat. I like the aesthetics of the sliced onion. So we actually have an onion left over, and one tip for this is we always want to keep that hair, and then you can cut away the stem to remove that exterior layer. And we cut this in half so that it's easier and it won't rock back and forth. When it's a circle, it's harder to manage on the cutting board. So we cut it in half long ways, and then for just slices, you're just gonna cut it this way so that you have pre-sliced onion. And our recipe calls for about 1 cup. That's really a lot of onion, I think, for this recipe. So I'm gonna cut it back just a little bit. We're just gonna use that much. If you love onion, go for it. Use the entire thing. And I'm just gonna cut these into a little bit smaller pieces throughout. And then you're just gonna throw that in. And I try to break them up just a little bit so whenever we do stir that, it will all blend together nicely when we're stirring. So onions are considered one of our white vegetables, and we talk about different vegetables have different health benefits. So our white vegetables are just as good for us as our red vegetables, as our blue fruits, as our orange vegetables. So we definitely want to include some of those white vegetables as well. All right, so that's all of our chopping. Next we have a lime. So I am gonna cut this in half really quick. And a tip for you, if you want to make sure you get as much juice as possible out of your lime, You can stick it in the microwave for like 10 seconds. Don't stick it in there too long, so otherwise it can explode. But stick it in the microwave and that'll help to loosen it up and loosen up some of the juices, and you'll get more out of that, that lime or lemon if you're using a lemon. So I'm gonna use an entire lime, which is about 2 tablespoons. If you just have a container of lime juice, just measure out 2 tablespoons. And then we want 2 tablespoons of salsa. So any salsa is fine. I just used what we had in the fridge here. Again, you can go more or less with that. And you could do a fresh salsa that's more of like a pico salsa. It's up to you and what you want in this dish. So just a little salt here. This is to taste, about 1/4 teaspoon. Make sure I have it on the right side. And about 1/4 teaspoon of pepper as well. So I'm just gonna do a little bit, again, to taste, and then mix it all together. And it's a really delicious, healthy salad. So you get protein from those beans, also from that quinoa that we used, has tons of protein. You're getting lots of mango here. I like mango, so we did 2 mangoes. You could cut back on that if you're not as big of a fan of mango. But this is a great way to get your fruit in, and then we also have some extra vegetables. And this is a really tasty side dish. You could use it as a filler in tacos. There's lots of options that you have for it. So this is just a really delicious, flavorful dish for you. And it looks really pretty all together. All right. So definitely give this one a try, and we'll see you back working on our mushroom almond burgers.
Sweetie, will you turn that down, please?
Keep life exciting, even when it's not. Watch TV everywhere from Star Communications.
All right, welcome back to our mushroom almond burgers. So this is a really delicious option for you if you are trying to cut back on some of that animal protein, and if you want to up your vegetables. My husband absolutely loves these. He is shocked every time that I tell him there's no meat in it. But it's really just a few ingredients. So I already did a few steps, and I'll kind of catch you up on that. So the first thing that we do with this is we have almonds, and we want to toast those. So we have sliced almonds, about 1/4 cup of those sliced or chopped almonds. You can buy them in the grocery store already chopped. You could use a food processor if you've got whole almonds that you want to chop up. They're a little bit difficult for you to use a knife and chop them up yourself. So I recommend trying to either buy them pre-chopped or using a food processor for that step. And so we toasted those. We also toasted some old-fashioned oats. So that's what you have here. These are just definitely a staple in my house. You can throw them in so many things: cookies, granola, tons of recipes call for it. So I usually buy a decent sized jar of this or can of this to keep in my house. And we just wanted 1/2 cup of that. So we toasted that ahead of time. You have to watch it carefully. You don't have any oil in the pan. It's just the almonds, the oats on the heat in the pan. And watch it carefully because it will burn very quickly. And then we went ahead and we cooked our mushrooms, which mushrooms need to be cut very, very finely. So I did use a food processor for that step. You could chop that up as well. But a food processor really gets them to be smaller pieces so that you have more to work with into your patties. So we processed our mushrooms and then chopped up our green onion. We needed about, I used 2 pieces of green onion, but it's actually, you need about 1/2 cup of that chopped green onion. And we cooked that into our pan with a little bit of olive oil. And then when that was done, we added our oats and our almonds to that mixture and let it cool in the fridge for a little bit. So that is where we are at this point. So our mixture has cooled. We have our mushroom, almond, oat green onion mixture here. Nothing else has been added. And you just want to make sure it's stirred really nicely. And then you're going to add in all the other ingredients. So our other ingredients here is about 1/2 cup of brown rice. So this helps to give you a whole grain. And it does add a little bit more texture to those mushroom burgers. So we've got 1/2 cup of that. And then we have panko breadcrumbs. Now, preferably you want to use the whole grain panko or whole wheat panko breadcrumbs. And these usually come in a container about like this. But I could not find the whole grain in our grocery store. So I typically just go for the regular panko. I like to use panko over actual breadcrumbs that you might see in that same aisle, because if you look at the ingredients list, it's way shorter. There's only, let's see, wheat flour, dextrose, sugar. It's only got a little bit of sugar, yeast, and salt. So very simple ingredients. We know what all of those are for the most part, and we can count them on one hand. So that is a great addition. So we're gonna add those panko in there, and that's about 1/2 cup of panko. And then we have some egg whites, and we have 3 egg whites that we're gonna add. Now, if you want to, you could absolutely use a whole egg. I would just cut back, maybe do like 1 to 2 whole eggs. But the recipe calls for egg whites. Either one is fine. It is up to you on what you like to use. And then we have cheese. So you see I'm just stirring this a little bit together each time. And then I'll start to slowly, when it's all done, I'll really mix it together nicely. So this was 1/3 cup of sharp cheddar cheese. Now the goal here is to make sure that you're using the low-fat cheese, and the point of that is to reduce that saturated fat content. So we know that our unsaturated fats are really good for us. The saturated fat is something we want to cut back on. So just make sure you're using like a low-fat cheese of some sort, and this is a sharp cheddar cheese. And then our last step is going to be to chop up our herbs. So we have about 2 tablespoons of parsley here. And I'm just going to cut this really finely. And the Mediterranean diet is all about using fresh herbs. So we use herbs to help flavor our food, and that helps to give it some natural, tasty flavor while also adding some benefits that we get just from using fresh herbs. You could also use the dried herbs if you prefer. I love fresh, and especially this time of year, it's very available to us. So this is fresh parsley. I actually got it right out of our greenhouse here at the extension office that our master gardeners were growing. So really tasty. We're gonna throw that in. And last step is to just mix it all up. So you want it to be nice and mixed really well together. And then our next step, we're gonna patty these up, and then we'll see you right back with these in the pan ready to cook.
After completing my contract, I still have to buy out of it? Come on. Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping home secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody try to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
All right, so we're back with our mushroom almond burgers here, and I've pattied most of these up. Now this recipe says it'll make about 6 patties. We already have 7 here, and we're gonna have 1 more. So depends on the size of your patties. I think this is a good size, and they're not going to shrink a whole lot, so just keep that in mind. So as I'm going in here, I'm just gonna grab a handful, and it should fit nicely into the palm of your hand. So you're just going to kind of push it together back and forth and flatten it as you go. So you have a nice patty you want most of them to be pretty uniform and look very similar in the same shape. So we're gonna put these into our pan, and we've already got our pan on low, and we've added a little bit of oil. I'll probably pump up the pan just a little bit. But you don't need a whole lot of oil in here, just about 2 tablespoons of oil. And you might have some pieces fall apart. That is perfectly okay. That happens. I call those the crispies that you can have later that are really tasty. And as you're picking them up, if any of them feel a little bit more flimsy, feel free to push it back together, form it more nicely and tightly, and then throw it in the pan. So that is gonna cook a few minutes per side. We want to maybe make that about 5 minutes per side, just until you have a nice toasted layer on the opposite end. And keep in mind, you did have some raw eggs in this, so you want to make sure that you are washing your hands after handling this raw food, that we're being cautious of what we are touching. Now I just want to talk to you a little bit about all the different things that we have in this. So think about all of our mushrooms, we've got our herbs, we've got our green onions. So we're getting a lot of vegetables just in this patty, and that's what makes this a really healthy option for us. We've got our healthy fats as well, including our olive oil, our healthy whole grains, which is from that brown rice, and then we have our almonds, which are also a healthy fat and a healthy protein. So this is really is kind of a complete meal. It has all of those main food groups that we want to have in one little bite together. So we want to make sure that we have around 3 cups of vegetables every single day. And thinking of that, if you have more than that, that's even better. So there are some studies that have found that having more fruits and vegetables in the diet a day, like upwards towards 9 servings a day, drastically reduced cardiovascular disease. So we want to make sure that we're trying to get as many vegetables into our diet as we can. Don't let 3 cups and 3 servings be all that you have. Increase that. Try to get as much as you can, and try to have a variety. So try to have different colors to help give you different nutrients, because every color has different nutrients and different vitamins that are really good for our body. And so think about, over the course of a week, you want to have a variety of colors in your diet throughout the entire week. You might not have a variety every single day, and that's okay. This isn't supposed to be stressful. This isn't supposed to be something that you feel like you have to track and that can overwhelm you. Just look at it in a week. Maybe switch up the fruit that you have every day, or switch up and try to do different vegetables. Another thing that we want to talk about is the more vegetables, fruits and vegetables that we have every single day, we do see that an increase in fruits and vegetables decreases our weight. So people who eat a lot of fruits and vegetables actually have a lower weight, and that helps reduce that risk for obesity and obesity-related diseases. So we want to up those fruits and vegetables. Now, one study did find that those vegetables that did not have those benefits were things that are really starchy vegetables, which we consider potatoes, some of your more starchy beans and peas, things like that. We want to have more of those other fruits and vegetables, and that's what shows us a decrease in weight gain. So we'll let these cook up just a little bit more, and then I'm going to wash my hands and I'll join you right back.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home, so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
All right, so we've had our burgers cooking for about 5 minutes. What we really want to look for is when we're checking those, I usually just lift it, peek at the underside, and see if it's starting to turn brown. So when I flip it, you're able to see that it started to turn nice and brown. And you should also be able to flip these really easily. So what will happen is that the egg whites will start to cook and kind of form together, and that'll make these burgers easier to control as you're working them in the pan. Now I like to flatten mine. I do it with everything. I do it with my pancakes. I know we're not supposed to do that with our burgers and our meats because it does start to run some of those juices out. Sometimes you just have habits that you just can't get out of. So I do flatten them just a little bit once they get flipped over and they're a little bit more firm. And if you need to add a little bit more oil here, you absolutely could. I'm gonna let these cook a little bit longer and check on them to see if I need any more oil. But as I said, it's only a few minutes per side. I did end up cranking up my my temperature over here to about medium. So halfway, you want to cook it around medium. You could even do a little bit medium to high if you're in a rush, but you want to make sure that the egg whites are cooked all the way through, because that is the only thing in here that we're really concerned about in terms of food safety. So thinking about food safety, I have this handy dandy thermometer here, which is one of our big things that we teach in our programs here at Cooperative Extension. So actually using a digital thermometer can really change your life in terms of cooking foods at home. Any meats at home, anything that you're doing that we are concerned that might have a food risk. So when we're looking at something like eggs, egg whites, we want to make sure this is cooked to a minimum or internal temperature of 150. That's the temperature we know that those egg whites are safe to now consume. So when we're done with these, we can temp them using that thermometer. Looking at our thermometer, we want to make sure that we're not touching the probe, because when we do this, it's going to start to read the temperature of me, of what my body temperature is. And you're going to offset the temperature of whatever you're trying to check. So you want to make sure that you hold it from a distance and that you insert it into the thickest part of whatever you're checking. And you'll just, with a digital thermometer, we can see until it gets to that proper temperature. Now, in the past, we used to have dial thermometers. We don't recommend using those because sometimes it's iffy. You're like, oh, is this 145 or is it 144? Well, for pork, we know that 145 is the safe internal temperature. So if we're at 144, that food might not be safe to eat yet. So we just want to make sure that we're using that digital because we can 100% know what temperature that food is going to be at. So digital thermometers are wonderful, and it really does help you to feel safe about what you're eating. For me personally, it's helped me not to overcook my food. And that's a big one. So that way that you are getting still really juicy, tender meats, and it's not going to be overly cooked where it's dry. The other thing I wanted to mention is the parsley that we use today. So the herbs we put into our Mushroom Almond Burgers was parsley, and we did use a flat leaf parsley. So if you're not familiar with that, this is what it looks like. It's not the prettiest one that I pulled out. Let me pull out another one for you. So when you're looking in the grocery store, it almost looks kind of like cilantro, and it will be in the same section. So you have to make sure you're reading the label for that food when you're shopping. But I like the Italian parsley. It's flat. There is a curly leafed parsley that's going to be more curled up. They are the same. They have a similar flavor profile, so you could use either one. I just like the flat for no reason at all. It just is the one I gravitate to. So parsley is a really good herb. This is one of my go-tos because it has a more mild flavor. It's not overpowering, and it's really good in a lot of different dishes. Another herb that I really enjoy cooking with is basil. But basil is a little bit more strong in the flavor profile of that. So it's really good in more of your Italian dishes. So I try to use basil depending on what I'm putting. As far as these burgers, you can do any herbs you like. So you just want to make sure you have 2 tablespoons of those herbs. So you could absolutely have a variety of that. So I think our burgers are looking good. They're sizzling away. So we'll do our little check here. That one I flipped over by accident, but you can actually see both sides look the same and it's nice and firm. So we could actually temp check this and Let's see if I can do this without having to grab a fork. So we're at trying to move it away from the heat. So one thing that you want to make a note of is that if you have it on a hot surface, it's going to continue to go up. So it's actually going down right now because I moved it away from that pan. You don't want to temp your foods in the pan. You want to make sure you remove it out of the pan. So we're actually at 160. So this is absolutely safe to eat. It is done, cooked all the way through, and we're gonna enjoy these. And I hope you guys will try these at home. This is a really great, tasty recipe for you, and all of the different combinations of foods in there just give you such a good flavor profile. So I hope you enjoyed this. Look forward to seeing you again next time.